Today, as we dive fin too deep with myself and Neal Driscoll, we'll talk everything Miami Dolphins training camp, as basically the first week and a half are in the books, and we got to ask the question, has training camp so far provided more questions than answers for the 2025 Dolphins season? Plus, Noah Fant's choice in which team he's going to isn't the Miami Dolphins. We will discuss that. Plus, we'll dive into the cornerback situation and if the Miami Dolphins are going to be staying pat or not at cornerback. So do me the favor, smash the like button, subscribe if you are new, and as always, let's get into this.
Loses the football. Touchdown! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score. Field on the near side, man open. Touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again. Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
You're listening to Fin Too Deep.
Tua back to throw, blitz coming, and get to him. No, he takes off running, and he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What is good, Fin Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. We're back here for another one. Appreciate y'all taking some time out of your day. I'll tell you right now, it's Thursday. I'm living La Vida Loca because tomorrow is my 10-year anniversary, so we're going to my favorite steakhouse. Nice. Sunday, I'm off to Bahamas, and today I found out that they just started opening these franchises up in Canada. We're a little late here, but they just opened a Jersey Mike's up 15 minutes away from my house.
Oh, okay.
And I'm compared to Subway, which is the mainstay around here, I'm in heaven, brother. I'm in heaven right now.
Jersey Mike's is solid. Jersey Mike's is solid.
Hey, they cut it right there. For a chain sub place, it's my favorite chain sub.
Do you have Jimmy John's where you are?
No.
Okay.
No. I've heard good things about Jimmy John's.
I'd put Jimmy John's above Jersey Mike's, but anything over Subway.
And we got like a Canadian version of Subway called Mr. Sub, which is actually better ingredients, but where they lack is the bread isn't as good as it is at Subway, whereas Subway has decent bread, but I think their ingredients lack. You know what I mean? So, Jersey Mike's,
10 years,
bro,
man. Happy 10
right
years.
There in front of me. Thank you, bro. I appreciate it.
I had mine. I actually had my 10 year in April, so we're not far off.
Old man, huh?
10 years ago. Yeah, man, a lot's changed.
Yeah, really. Not with the Dolphins, though. We keep
going
around in circles,
playoff wins.
Dude, when you actually think about this, dude. I want you to think about this for a sec. We haven't watched the Miami Dolphins win a playoff game since we were in, I haven't watched them win a playoff game since, man, I'm 40 this year. I was 40 this year. So do the math, bro. I haven't seen them win a playoff game since I was in my teens.
You want to hear something nuts? I was at the last playoff win. I was a senior in high school. It was Lamar Smith's touchdown run against the Colts.
So you were in your teens too. You were in your team. Isn't that freaking crazy, bro? We both have multiple kids. We're both celebrating our 10-year anniversary, married to the women that we love and meant to be with, and we still haven't witnessed. Bro, we've created lives while the Dolphins are still doing the same thing over and over again, bro.
It makes me feel like an idiot for this reason. And this is God's honest truth. When I was in my dating world, if I dated a girl and I went to a second date, on the second date, what I would always tell them is like, look, I just want to be upfront and honest to create fair expectations. Like, if this goes anywhere, I just want you to know that on Sunday, I don't care if someone's dead, if there's plans. I don't miss football. I said I watch football from 1 p.m. till the night game ends, and that is what it is. And I like no exaggeration. I missed my own grandmother's wake, which I was a pallbearer at, to go watch the Dolphins lose the Monday Night Miracle. So I'm like, damn, man, like what girls must have sat on the other end of that table and be like, what the hell is wrong with this guy? But I'm loyal, and she liked it. And the best part is my current wife, when I laid that out, she's like, great. So are we going day drinking all day Sunday? I was like, fucking A, let's go.
You know how much of a sicko I am? Do you remember you obviously remember the 1-15 season. Well, I was working at that time, I was working continentals. So every second Sunday, I would have to work until 5 in the afternoon. So, bro, I was still DVRing them and coming home and avoiding spoilers, whatever I could, just to come home and watch that season, like knowing damn well what I was about to get into. Let me tell you that when they won that one game with the kick return, I'll tell you that much. What was that? Camarillo, right?
That was Camarillo, and Ed,
Camarillo?
His tackle was Ed Reed. I was at that game too.
Yeah. Thank God for Camarillo that year. And oh man, if only we would have had Cam Cameron in the 2019 season instead of Brian Flores, maybe we'd have Joey B or something at the helm right now. Well,
the most pathetic thing I've ever done is the Dolphins beat the Rams on a Monday Night Football game, and we had a 5th round linebacker we drafted from Arkansas named Tony Bua, who's number 51, that hit a huge block that sprung. I don't even know who the returner was. I got a custom-made Tony Bua jersey that I still have in my closet.
Bro, I got a Deion Jordan jersey when we drafted him because it said my name on the back of a jersey. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And then how did that work out for me with Deion?
Dude, I always wanted, when I saw that someone had a picture, it was Siren Neal, Neal, like I spell it, next to Jack Driscoll at camp. I was like, I need to get that photo, but I can't find it now.
Yeah. Oh, that's hilarious, man. So before we get into all the crux of some of the conversation today, we're a week and a half into camp. I do want to talk to you about one thing. Patrick Paul, man, the things we're reading publicly, the things I'm hearing privately from people who have been there in the media stands and in the fan stands I've talked to, Patrick Paul and Jonas Savaianaia, man, we might have the answer on that left side for the next 10 to 15 years with these guys. What have been your early impressions? Because, man, they're winning one-on-ones, and usually one-on-ones are whatever, but they're winning against like Chop and Zach Sealer and like they're, and Kenny G, who's been fantastic since the pads come on. They're winning against legitimate talent here. And then it's translating, and you're hearing about them opening up holes in training camp, and you're hearing about them holding their own. Hey, even the pass rush on one of the days with pads had a bad day where everyone was pretty much stifled. I believe it was either the second or third day of pads. What have been your thoughts on the offensive line early on, especially that left side?
It makes me think that if Chris Greer drafted trenches more often, that there'd be a lot less pitchforks aimed at him.
Yeah.
Right. Because you look at the takeaway, if I had to describe it in one word, it'd be physical, man. They are physical and they haven't been. And I'm not going to sit here, like I've seen some people saying now they're going to be one of the most physical teams. So I don't think you can do that in one off season. But what I see is, I'm not wasting away this season. I've even said this week that I think I've underestimated the Dolphins. They're a little bit probably better than I thought. And as high as I was on Kenny Grant and Jonas Savaianaia, they're still rookies, right? But to see them hold their own at the level they are and do more than hold their own, I think has been very impressive. But you cannot talk about the Miami Dolphins right now without talking about a few players. On the offense side of the ball, it's Tua's looked extremely sharp. A lot of people want to not credit him for that, but he hasn't thrown an interception in 7 practices. He's got a much better grasp of being the team leader. That's what I see. It's not just about the play. It's about the presentation of it. Look, Tyreek looks like he's a lot healthier when he's out there. I don't know how bad his wrist was last year, but he looks explosive. He looks like he's in for a big year. Jalen Waddle looks like he's ready to take that next step. But, some of the things I've heard kind of under the radar is that, like, how good Alexander Madison has looked.
Yeah.
And when we signed him, I thought that was a guy that would have trouble making this roster. And I think the Dolphins are in a position right now where they have 4 very capable running backs that do different things, which I like. But
Ollie's kind of been silent since the pads have come on, Neal, where Madison's kind of embraced it.
Yeah, and I think that, if he can be that short yardage back, right, the Dolphins might win a game or two if they can convert on those short situations, and it's a whole different story, right?
Yeah.
But nothing can get this team to ascend faster, I don't think, than having a true, strong left tackle. And Patrick Paul, what he's done with the pads on. And I remember when we drafted him, I liked Patrick Paul a lot. And I know I caught a lot of heat about it because they're like, oh, he'll never play. But, this was good foresight from Chris Greer, knowing where Terron Armstead was in his career, and to have a guy, because I think he brought him in at the right time because he sat behind Terron Armstead for a year. And even when Armstead wasn't playing on the field, he was on the sidelines, and Patrick Paul was able to digest with him. And he got a little playing time last year. And he honestly looked really good sometimes and really bad. But, he's a rookie, right? That's what's going to happen. What I think is that there's things you can't teach. And physicalness and size, they're God-given, right? And, I think that he's just a big, strong cat that had a good year season under him. And the whole offensive line has the privilege of going up against one of the best defensive fronts in football on a daily basis. Yeah. And that's the old thing that John Harbaugh always says here in Baltimore is iron sharpens iron. That's what we're seeing. The war, not just who gets to the facility first between Kenny Grant and Jonah Savaiinaea, but what we see every day. Grant wins reps. Jonah adjusts, and then he's winning reps. And man, it's just it's really good to see. So I say this, I think this Dolphins team can make the playoffs this year. I still don't think they're a legit contender for a Super Bowl, and we'll talk about reasons why in a little bit. But what gets me really excited is if they focus on the trenches like they did in this year's draft with all the draft capital they have next year, night and day this team can come and they can change. And they can even let Tyreek go and save that $38 million and bring more balance. Because if the Dolphins could run the football, they're going to be really, really hard to beat. And I think they're definitely, the guard situation's night and day, right? Yeah, it's Jonas Savaiinaea and James Daniels.
I think,
it's exciting to see the physicalness and the trenches being where we see success early on in camp.
I think it's been also positive that James Daniels has sounded like he's a guy that was prior to the Achilles injury more than a guy looking like he's coming off one. He's obviously not quite fully there yet, but he looks a lot more closer to being there than away. And man, the things I've heard privately about Daniel Brunskill, I've heard he's, comparing to Liam Eichenberg, and it's clear that Brunskill, give him another week or two, he's going to be far away our best interior depth guy. And now, I think when you're talking about not getting, not shedding that soft label over one off season, but, adding to it with the physicality they have, I think the other way to shed it too is you got to be able to have physical depth. And I think Brunskill, just from a standpoint of being dependable, is a step in the right direction of where we have it, of what we've had over recent memory, right? Like that,
right?
That offensive line, man, if it needs, and it's crazy because health is such a big thing. You're depending on Austin Jackson to be healthy, and Austin Jackson, again, I talk about this ad nauseum. He's been, hurt more than two in Jalen Phillips, right? So, as long as that offensive line, I think, can stay intact, I think Jonas Savaiinaea is going to be a godsend at guard. I think that interior, you just look at that interior is night and day from what we were fielding last year with Robert Jones, and who, might I add, before he got hurt, was beating out Tyler Booker, who some people wanted us to take at 13. Which
well, dude, and that sucks that Jones got hurt because that I'm not one of those guys that when people leave, I turn against him. I like Robert Jones. I thought whatever, I don't think he was a great guard, but where we got him and what we got out of him, he started meaningful football games for us. You know what I mean? But you nailed it on the depth, man. And you're talking about depth on the trenches. Andrew Meyer seems like a guy that he seems like a guy the Dolphins like. He's played well when he's in there, but on the defense side of the ball, out of Maryland, 5th-round pick, Jordan Phillips. I mean, dude, he looks like he's another guy that's going to be a key rotational piece. Get a couple of those guys every year, build the trenches. And the best part about this offensive line is we really haven't seen it at full strength because Aaron Brewer is going to be back here, in the next couple of days. Or, I think it's one of those things that, if the offensive line is a strength of this football team, knowing what we have at the skill position, I mean, there's reason to be excited about the Dolphins. Where before I've said it, I thought they were an 8-win team that was in kind of that purgatory. They have some concerns. 2 positions really concern me, and we'll talk about them. But the rookies and the young players are way ahead of the curve compared to where I think they're going to be. And we haven't even talked about Chop Robinson, who anyone who talks. Yeah, anyone who talks about Chop Robinson is talking like this guy is that next NFL pass rusher. Is that type of guy. I was at Ravens.
I got to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
I was at Ravens training camp. And someone who covers NFL nationally was like, "How about my guy Chop Robinson?" to me. So that was cool because that's we weren't talking. He just walked past me and yelled that at me. That was cool because that is what you like. We've had him, right?
How'd Mike Green look like when you were there? How'd he look?
Mike Green's hands are fucking so violent. Mike Green, he's my pick for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he's going to be a superstar, and Malachi Starks, dude, is
really
awesome.
Yeah,
right? Yeah. I mean, look, they got a bad blow with Likely, but I think they're going to be a tough out. But we talked about this, the parallels of how we're building right now mirror more what Baltimore's done than what Miami's done in the past. And Chop Robinson is a Baltimore type pick, right? They took the very athletic pass rusher.
Do you think that's Weaver?
I think Weaver has a lot of influence because I kind of joke and say this, but I was also kind of told under the radar that Travis Jones, who's a pending free agent, is oh, I know the Dolphins are going to be interested in me. I know who who their DC is, and I'm okay, wow. So if you're telling me we could put out maybe a potential front with Kenneth Grant, Zach Sealer, and Travis Jones, all right, let's go.
Don't count out Jordan Phillips because he looks like he's going to take a starting role by midseason.
Oh, for sure. I mean, look, Benito Jones, if that guy wants to keep playing on 1-year team-friendly deals, I'll keep him for depth. But Brian Williams, who was the defensive coordinator for Maryland last year, he's not anymore, actually. You know who their new defensive line coach is? It's Corey Leggett, the old defensive tackle from the Chargers.
Okay.
But Brian Williams had told me that he thought Phillips had a high ceiling at the next level.
Yeah, it was kind of like Chop, right? You can't you had to watch the film. You can't scoreboard watch and stat box watch with Jordan Phillips. You had to watch the film to be able to project out based on the things he showed, man. And the fact he's so young, Neal. He's already flashing the way he is, and he's so young. Where's this kid going to be in 2 years, man?
Him going pro caught them off guard. And Mike Loxley, who's Maryland's coach, you don't see Maryland as a powerhouse football program. It's a hard job because you lose all the talent.
They had Chop before Penn State. I mean, they've had some guys recently. Let's be honest here.
And they've turned out to have some good pros, especially in the defensive backfield.
What if Asante Trainer?
But I know that a lot of the people that I know that love Maryland football are like, damn, man, if Phillips would have stayed one more year, he would have been a 2nd-round pick. So it's wow. Okay, good. Get him there now and let him learn. Let him be rotational. But I do think by the end of the season, he's playing probably more snaps than Benito Jones.
Yeah. And man, I'm telling you, we just bulked up, beefed up, and this draft really was, a lot more physical.
For
sure.
More
tone setters,
For sure.
I
for sure.
Love it, bro. I love it.
If everyone stays healthy, it's going to be a beautiful situation to be in next year. It really is. If Tua plays 17 games and you don't have to spend a 1st-round pick on a quarterback, right? If, because I think that the Dolphins are going to be in the cornerback market for sure, right? But if they lose Tyreek, there's big shoes to fill, right?
Yeah.
And I think that a 2nd-round receiver, a guy like Nick Harbor, a guy like Mekhi Lemon from USC, are guys that the Dolphins are going to like. They like speed. They like, they like nuanced route runners.
Nick Harbor's a freak.
Yeah,
That guy's a
like
freak.
he's got Dolphins characteristics, right? So
Yeah.
I think like if you go there and you have a 1, a 2, 2 threes, a 2 4s, and a 5, right? I don't even care what they have in the 6th and 7th. Like, man, like if and defensive line's really good again in this year's draft, and interior offensive line's really good again. Like you keep building this, like right, like you got it right this year, right? You got the draft right with Kenny Grant and Jonas Savanea and Jordan Phillips and Dante Trader and all these guys. And it's early, but like you keep having drafts where you're adding to the trenches and they come out and they're showing out like this early in camp. That takes away that soft label pretty quick. Because I don't think there's a lot of people who watch football that are going to be calling Kenny Grant soft. They're going to call Jonas Savanea soft. And after this week, I don't think there's anyone in the world that's going to call Patrick Paul soft.
Yeah, I agree. So let's talk about, I'm assuming, one of the positions, and we'll talk about the other one later on here. But one of the positions I'm going to assume you were talking about was tight end. Noah Fant, actually, as of 39 minutes ago, Noah Fant officially signed his 1-year deal with the Cincinnati Bengals. So he's off the table after visiting with the Miami Dolphins. I don't even need to be told this. I think we can all pretty much fairly assume that there wasn't much money put on the table, probably somewhere in around of what Jonah was making in the 4 to 5 million range, maybe that might even be a little too high. What are your thoughts on, well, now with Minka's deal, they've got about 12.2 million, including the 1.2 they had before Minka's cleared up 11. What are your thoughts on the tight end room right now? Julian Hill, he's having a lot of pre-snap penalties already in training camp. He's dropping some footballs. Darren Waller is on the PUP list. I've heard privately that Darren Waller looks like he's lost a lot of mass to his frame, and that's one of the things is they want him to bulk up a little bit more, and as he gets into game shape. While Tanner Connor isn't really separating himself, either is Hayden Rucci or any of these guys, and Farrell Brown is actually potentially pushing Julian Hill for that spot. What are your thoughts on the tight end room and Noah Fant kind of saying, thanks, but no thanks. I'm going to go to a loaded room that already has Gesicki, as well as receiving options like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. Kind of chance over. He's kind of taken over the chance at winning over reps and money, right?
Well, and that's what I heard. It was a 3-dog race, and ultimately he chose the Bengals because he thought that gave him the best chance to win. And that's, it is what it is. I think, God, man, if you look at Joe Burrow's situation right now with Higgins, Jamar Chase, Gesicki, Noah Fant, they have Jermaine Burton. He's got a lot of weapons. His list of excuses is going to be running short very soon as well. But I'd like to have Noah Fant, but it was also kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a bullet hole for me. Like Julian Hill's my new Liam Eichenberg. I can't stand him. He's my least favorite player on the team. I think he adds very little value. I think Farrell Brown's going to play a lot of snaps because of his ability to play in line, but I'm not going to buy into Tanner Connor this preseason if he catches a few touchdowns because I got to see it on the field. And, I don't think people understand that, like, when you take a year away from football and you're off the NFL training regimen, what that looks like, right? Like, go Google current picture of Marshall Yanda and see what he looks like today after he's got off of it. The guy's like Rinthale. He's skinny. He's like unbelievable. Like when you're lifting and, you're like, it's going to take Waller some time to get back into football condition. And like, I count him as a guy that like maybe for the first quarter of the season, you don't really see much from him. So I think that, obviously they kicked the tires on Noah Fant. Like the Isaiah Likely injury sucks because I do think, and I know the Dolphins had some interest in Charlie Kohler, tight end who was at Iowa State, who's on the Ravens. But, I don't know what's out there that they can get that's so much better. It's going to be their Achilles heel. I think the good news is that they probably have, when healthy, the best wide receiver tandem in football. And Westbrook-Ikini, Malik Washington, and some of these young guys are going to have opportunities to catch the ball. But, our tight end position doesn't look strong. I kind of wonder after the Bears draft Colston Loveland, could Miami pick up the phone and maybe try to see if they could get their old friend Durham Smythe back for a late pick?
Yeah.
It's bad though, right? You agree? It's pretty bad.
It's just, I mean, how much faith can you really have in that room right now when Farrell Brown might take the number 1 tight end spot. I mean, we got to hope Darren Waller can find some magic that he had. I don't know if you saw, but Art Stapleton in 2023 training camp, he said that, before Malik Neighbors had arrived, he said in his 20-plus years covering the team, that was the best and most impressive training camp performance he'd ever seen from a player, and it was Darren Waller, and he ended up retiring. I just don't think his heart was in it now.
Right.
I think, I think that fitness regimen he was in, I think it took off too much mass from his body, and now it's just, you got to bulk up. But I mean, what can we really expect from a guy who's in his early 30s and coming a year out of retirement? And it tells you if they were willing to entertain Noah Fant, it's not like they're 110% sold on getting anything really out of Darren Waller. And listen, I know fans have kind of used this as an opportunity of, should have taken maybe Tyler Warren and I'm going to sit here and say, no, thanks. I'm going to take Kenny G 7 days a week and twice on Sunday over Tyler Warren.
I don't know if
I'll see against Indianapolis in week 1 when Tyler Warren maybe does a little against us, but the Colts get ran out of the building.
Yeah, I don't know if I take 2 Tyler Warrens over Kenny Graham, to be honest. But I think it's one of those things, like tight end is the one position, like it's not the only one, until to a quarterback, but like it's like we've been snake bitten. If you remember, we tried Julius Thomas and Jordan Cameron, who were Pro Bowl guys elsewhere, and came here and did nothing, right?
But they were shells of themselves, right? Like Jordan Cameron, the concussions, and Julius Thomas was late in his time,
But even when, like I think that's why fans liked Gesicki so much at first, because it looked like the Dolphins invested pretty high in the tight end position. He looked uber athletic. And look, I don't like Mike as a blocker, except his blocking on Twitter. But like, I will say this, he was fun to watch, and he was a hell of a pass catcher. That one touchdown that he pulled in Baltimore, that Ravens comeback was so sweet in the back of the end zone that Tua found. So like, I like Gesicki. I mean, I'd take him back on our team right now over what we got in that room for sure. But I do think tight end's one position that Miami needs to find a solution for after this season. They got to find a guy, maybe with one of those 3rd-round picks, that they can come in that's an all-around player, in line, slot versatility. Like they need something like that. Like the well's pretty dry in their building right now. Farrell Brown can block. I don't think he's going to catch much. I mean, I'd be shocked. He's made a
few catches. That's why he's actually in the running, because he's actually made a few catches compared to Julian Hill, who's penalty central.
Why do you think they like Julian Hill so much, though? Like I don't get it.
I think John Embry is just hung up on the guy's size, his frame. He probably benches a whole bunch. You know what I mean? Like they're probably. You want me to be honest with you? He probably fits John Embry's physical prototype, but the problem has been the results have not fit the prototype, and I think that's where it's at.
And he's not a good player. He's not horrible, but what makes it worse is, and compounds everything, is the pre-snap penalties on top of it, right? Like,
and you know what kind of gives me pause about when everyone's like, "Oh, John Embry," and because even when we got John Embry and when we got our offensive coordinator, right? Frank Smith, I was hyped because of their past with tight ends, right? But this is who they've stuck, their wagon to, as well as Tanner Conner, yet they allowed the best one out of all of those guys in Elijah Higgins to walk. Right. So you figure this one out, man. And don't give me the don't give me the he was a good receiver and he converted. Okay, well, I go back to Frank Smith. He saw it in Darren Waller. Why didn't he see it in Elijah Higgins? I mean, that's my whole point is these guys, especially John Embry, for their track record, we're talking like Tony Gonzalez, George Kittle, a bunch of guys. Jordan Cameron, who you named earlier, was a John Embry guy when he was a Pro Bowler. Like, there's a handful of guys you can name, but yet they can't, never mind a needle in a haystack, they can't find a needle in a pile of needles right now.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Speaking of tight end, shout out to good old Antonio Gates, who's getting enshrined this weekend, right? Like,
oh yeah. Shout out to Martin Ukbai, who's down there. He decided, hey, I'm going to take the week off work. He's actually arriving at the stadium at about 7:30. He's already got his ticket for the game tonight, and then he's going to the enshrinement on Saturday.
I hope there's another one in my lifetime, and I hope it's our boy Richard Webb, man. I've been to 3 enshrinements, Marino, JT, and Zach. Dude, I'm not a real emotional type of dude.
Yeah.
Man, someone's peeling onions in the crowd where I'm there because
Yeah.
it like those 3 guys are
Oh, if it's Richmond, I'm going.
Oh, dude, I go for sure.
You know?
Yeah, man. I don't know who our next guy would be. We're probably waiting a little while because unless Richmond does get in, he deserves it.
Yeah.
It's unreal that an all-decade guy has been snubbed like him.
It's ridiculous.
It's very frustrating because today, in today's world for like younger fans, like Richmond Webb is on the level of a Tristan Wirfs. Like that's who he was. Like
it was like him and Anthony Munoz were like the top with the cream of the crop, right? And then Ogden came around, right? It was like
our current day Dolphin problems didn't exist with him and Keith Sims on the left side. It was awesome.
Yeah,
it was awesome to watch, man. That was so fun of a time where you knew that Marino's back was always protected.
Yeah, that's why you could drop him back so many times, right?
And I think that's lost. That's what I think is lost in this is that it matters. Like the context matters. His quarterback was Marino, who dropped back, was a pocket passer, and that's who he kept clean. That matters.
But you know what I think is it working against them? Number one, they only had one 1,000-yard rusher in Kareem Abdul-Jabbar during his time there, right? Because they just didn't run the ball, right? And then number two is, unlike edge players or defensive tackles with pressures and sacks, there's not a lot of quantifiable stats for offensive linemen. But what you said earlier should be quantifiable enough. The fact that he made the NFL's own all-decade team, listen, when you talk about the left tackle position of the 90s, it is Munoz, Webb, and Ogden when he came in the late 90s. That's it.
Yep.
Like that's it. That's the cream of the crop.
It's a travesty in my eyes, man. And I hope he gets it. And he's a better guy than he off the field than he was on the field. But
Bruce Smith would talk about how he's like the toughest guy I ever went up against, right?
Right, man. It's a mutual respect when you go to war against somebody in your rivals. And I think, I remember when Kevin Mawai got in and he was like on stage and said Zach Thomas should be it. Like, that's important, man. It sucks, but maybe one day, hopefully soon. I think the thing that does hurt is that we're in the fantasy football era of the NFL where a lot of these receivers are coming out with padded stats because of the heavy pass and attack and the way the rules are called. So you're going to get a plethora of wide receivers that probably get in earlier than they should have, right? Sure. And it kind of hurts. It hurts the algorithm, but so it should work out eventually.
Let's talk about another position here, which I'm going to guess is the second position you had in mind. The cornerback position, Kader Kohu, we have lost him for the season with a partial ACL tear that he opted to have the surgery on right away instead of trying to play any of it out after some healing. They've already signed Jack Jones. They've already signed Mike Hilton to man the slot. Asante Samuel Jr., who's supposed to actually get clearance this month in July, he's still out there. His dad has also changed his tune on the Dolphins over the last week. I don't know if you saw that. Yeah, but Rasul Douglas, they just, he had turned them down in May, and then he turned them down again last week. They just can't come to financial agreements. And then beyond that, you got like Stephon Gilmore, and it starts to get real thin because you start getting into the concussion-ridden and guy who was just here and Kendall Fuller. It starts to get real thin after those three guys. Where are you at with this cornerback room? It's probably going to be Storm Duck, Hilton, as well as Jack Jones if the season started today. Where are you on those guys in that room? And do you think they add another body?
See, when they signed Hilton and Jack Jones last Saturday, and we didn't know the fate of Kader Kohu, I thought they had a competent cornerback room. Yeah. Nothing great, but competent.
Good enough with that.
Because I think Mike Hilton's a dog. I love
so do I. Yeah.
And I think Jack Jones is a really good player, but he's immature and he's a gambler. He'll get burnt a little bit, but he is tough. And I like the swagger he plays with.
Yeah.
But losing Kader is a huge blow because I think Cater is a better player than both those guys at this point in their career. Cam Smith from what I've heard, has been one of the worst players out on the field. And it doesn't look like it's getting any better. I do think they like Storm Duck, and Storm Duck does have the guy who's not afraid of the challenge kind of thing going for him. The Rasul Douglas ship, to me, has to sail at a point where you have a standing offer for a player and you've signed 2 corners. Like, I just think that it's not going to happen at this point. Ultimately, like, keep an eye on Buffalo with Maxwell Hairston going down for a few weeks. A reunion there could make sense for Douglas. I do like Stephon Gilmore, but, like, he's definitely lost a step, right? Like, It's not defensive player of the year. The name's probably bigger than the player. I don't know what Cleveland's, if they're open for business, right? But they're a team that's projected.
Didn't they just lose Emerson for the year?
They did, and it puts a huge damper in it because I think because Denzel Ward looks like he's back and ready to go. I've heard that they had Greg Newsome on the trading block, but that was prior to Martin Emerson going down. I like Newsome because he's young, and I think he'd actually be a really good fit. But if they're not trading him, one name that is, and at this point, I want familiarity as much as I want talent because I don't think you're going to go out and get a really good. I do wonder if we could get Nick Needham back for like a 6th, 7th round pick, or if he gets cut in Cleveland, because I think at this point, unfortunately, the Achilles heel of your defense is going to be your cornerback room. But I will say this, damn, does that make a Fitzpatrick trade look a lot better right now with Ashton Davis going down. But one of my takeaways from camp is that, like, our corners might lack, but a elite center field safety like Minka with that defensive front can mask
Melifonu when he's healthy. Yeah.
Right. They can mask some of that. Like, where it scares me is, like, when you play a good pocket passing quarterback like a Joe Burrow and it can get on the move and he just sees that Storm Ducks line up on Jamar Chase, what's Joe Burrow going to do?
Yeah.
He's going to have 20 targets that game, Jamar Chase, right? So that's where I get concerned. But, like, I said this the other day when I was thinking out loud about it. Like, okay, well, let's look at it. They had Byron Jones and Xavier Howard, which was supposed to be the best cornerback tandem in football. It didn't work. Then they had Xavier Howard and Jalen Ramsey. It was supposed to be the best cornerback tandem in football. It really didn't work, right? So when we invested like crazy in the position and it was supposed to be the biggest strength of our team, it never truly was, right? Yeah. So it's like, to me, like, maybe being weak at corner but being strong up front pans out because our linebackers are way better than I thought they were going to be, because I think William Gay, I don't know, I like to come out of Mississippi State, but him and Jordan Brooks look really good together. Yeah. I know that the rave reviews of Tyrell Dodson have not been there, but this guy had 3 interceptions in 8 games for us. So, like, we know he can play. So, like, I love our linebacker core all of a sudden. I think that front 7, because I'm looking at pass rushers, defensive line, and linebackers is really sound. I like our safety room. If Melifonu can get healthy, I love it, right? I don't like our cornerback room, but you're going to have weaknesses on the team. Our weaknesses are tight end and cornerback. That's why we're talking about it. But I think the solution to it is the guy you named. I think the best move they can make right now is Asante Samuel Jr. And I'm not a doctor. We've had to talk about that on this show for years. Like, we're not playing doctor. But if he gets a clean bill of health, there's not a better cornerback available in free agency or trade. He's young, and I think he's a perfect fit for what we need right now. And if our starting corners are Jack Jones and Asante Samuel on the outside with Mike Hilton in the nickel corner, that's a lot better than I think what it is right now.
Yeah. Listen, it was we were already so thin there, and then we just can't ever get on the right side of this injury bug, man.
It's the last 3 years. It's been awful, man. The injuries have been awful. It's snake bitten a little bit. Like I wouldn't even say
been fully healthy the whole time he's been here. Then now he assumes the number 1 spot, and what happens?
If you ask me to name the top 20 Dolphins on this roster right now, Kohu's probably in that like 18 to 20 range if he's on it. But when you talk about the magnitude of the loss of the player to where we are, I mean, it's probably one of the biggest 10 losses you could have had, knowing where you are at that position, right?
Yeah.
And like I don't fault Chris Greer as many as most for like Jalen Ramsey's situation, because I think a lot of that amplified after the draft. And like, I think the Dolphins were probably thinking that at a point Ramsey would just come back and work it out, and it didn't happen. So I think that was bad. And, you and I were two of the biggest Will Johnson fans in the draft community. But with that said, as much as I like Will Johnson, I'm not unhappy with Jonas Savaiinaea. I'm actually really happy that we have a young foundational offensive lineman in the trenches rather than a guy that, even though I like him, let's say Will Johnson's coming off an injury-riddled tenure at Michigan. So it's like the Cam Smith draft pick is what kills us here, man. But I will say this. If you go back and look at that draft, I will say, like,
we were high
between him and Devon Achane, the draft sucks. It's like there's not that many guys I would have taken over Cam Smith. So it's like I don't, sometimes you just get it wrong.
Yeah. And I think, when you look at the O-line depth and then I guess some of that corner depth, what also hurts too is all the assets you've given up in trades for Jalen Ramsey and Tyreek Hill and Bradley Chubb. Those are guys who you could have drafted depth pieces at both of those positions. Right. Instead, we're hoping on UDFAs once again, right? Like BJ Adams, who's had an up and down camp and been banged up a little bit, right?
Right.
That's why they've been lucking out with a UDFA hitting every year. And right now, it doesn't sound like there's a Storm Duck or a Nick Needham or a Kader Kohu in their UDFA group this year, right? Like, we all thought they were super high on B.J. Adams and they might have something. B.J. Adams has been pretty quiet.
And anyone who we get any promises in the secondary seems like the injury bug's finding them, right?
Like, but that UDFA has made up for not getting a guy in the draft normally. And this year, it's not, you don't have either, really.
And like,
because Jason Marshall doesn't sound like Jason Marshall. He's not a special teams guy, and Jason Marshall, if he doesn't get in the top rotation, he doesn't offer you much for the roster spot he takes up. And I've heard Jason Marshall's been very, very up and down. Aside from that one pick he had, I've heard he's been very.
He's probably. I think he's a practice squad guy. To be honest.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I think they have. You said $12 million in cap space. They're going to cut one of their punters, and I think they're going to cut Jake Bailey here soon, which saves about $2.5 million, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And if they get this deal with Sealer, that I've heard there's some motion there, like if they get that
$20
done,
million.
that should give them about $6 more million in cap space, right? So you're talking about being right around 18 to 20 million in cap space. I don't know, if my job is on the line and I feel like that, what I'm doing is I'm picking up the phone and I'm finding out what young cornerbacks are ascending and what veterans on that team that I might be able to get. It might be a 4th round pick, right? You have a 4th round coming in, a compensatory pick for Javon Holland, right? Like, you got to be creative, but you can't go into this because I think the Chiefs, Ravens, Bills are the top tier team in the NFL. I think you could argue, if you're from the outside, that Houston and Cincinnati are tier 2. And that tier 3, I think the Miami Dolphins are right there with any team that's in that list. That's why people are like, oh, you're flip-flopping because now you have them a playoff team. Well, I had them at 8 wins. Now I could say they could win 10. If that makes me a flip-flopper, sure. But I think they are a team that's the 6th or 7th best team in the AFC. Is that an indictment on a bad AFC? But I'm not. The Jets aren't better than them. The Patriots aren't better than them. The Colts aren't, right? Like, Jags aren't.
I think too. If you feel like Duck, Hilton, and Jack Jones can get you through the first half of the season, and you're not able to land someone like you were just talking about with picking up the phone, but you still got a lot of that space, all of a sudden around the trade deadline, teams are going to know where they're at in terms of, are we heading for more draft picks because we're going to be drafting high, or are we going all in? And that's why, that first 8 games, I think it's so important that this team starts off really, really well, because it gives you flexibility to fix some of these problems at the trade deadline when players might be available who are not available today.
Right. 100%. I think that is, and I think their schedule is very favorable to start, right?
Yeah,
I really do.
I
think, it wouldn't surprise me if the Dolphins are 5-1 in the first 6 games of the season. I think, because here's what we know about the Dolphins, right? They beat the teams they're supposed to beat, right? Our problem is they don't elevate against the other teams, right?
Yeah.
But if they do what they've shown us over the last 3 years, I think at worst they're 4-2 after the first 6 games, right? So it's like, you really got to weather the storm after that for a few weeks, and then then there's going to be ample trade. I mean, the teams like the Saints, the Browns, the Giants, the Jets. I mean, they're not going to trade interdivision, but like there's some bad football teams. You know what I mean? And you might be able to get your hands on a player, and I think you got to pay attention. I will say, man, it makes me hate the fact that the Ravens got Jari Alexander for $4 million because I know we were in that game, and it would have been really nice to have him out there right now.
That's why I never understood. Oh, we'll make an offer to Rasul Douglas, but we won't make an offer to you, Jair, until we figure out the Ramsey thing. Screw that. You should have made the offer.
And Jair, I mean, look, he's got to stay out. He looked really good when I saw him out there the other day.
Man, if we had Jair Alexander who's healthy right now with Storm Duck and Jack Jones battling for the 2 spots, I think we'd be a lot more comfortable. We wouldn't be fully comfortable. We'd be disappointed because Cater and Jair would have been really good, but we would sleep a lot easier at night, I feel, if we had Jair in the building right now.
So for sure.
Kind of dropped the ball on that one. So just quickly though, would you pursue Asante Samuel given that neck injury? And right now, Neal, we're getting burnt on every guy we're bringing in on the cheap who has an injury history, right? Ashton, Artie, we're getting burnt.
Yeah. What's the contract look like? I mean, I think at this point he's got to live on a prove it deal, right?
Yeah, there's no way you're guaranteeing money to a guy who's a shot to the neck away from his career being over. Probably that doesn't sound good.
So if you give me a deal where it's like 1 year, $2.8 million plus incentives for amount of games played, you know what I mean? And bonuses based off that. I'd be willing to risk $3 million to have a guy of his caliber because. Let's just say this team really hits and the running game really gets going. And I keep going with the running game because I think that running game takes this team to a new level. I think even in 2023, the running stats were not as much as us being a good running team. Just, we hit big home run runs. And I think this team's actually built better to run the football when it matters a little bit more now.
Yeah.
Let's just say this team is a team, because every year there's that surprise team too, right? Let's just say that they're a team that's 8-2 at a point of the season, or 7-3 at a point of this season, and contending as a division winner with the Bills. Let's play a scenario. I'd hate for the Achilles heel of this team to be cornerback when we know that's a problem right now, right? Because a good front office is saying, what can prevent us from hitting our goal?
Yeah.
What could prevent us from going where we want to go? You and I, we know our football, but we know what this team's Achilles heel is. But it's not just us. Somebody who barely likes the Dolphins probably knows what the Dolphins' problem is when you look at the roster, right? So if there's that much information on it, I mean, I'll say this. If you have $12 million in cap space right now, you might want to sign Rasul Douglas and Asante Samuel and hope one works.
Yeah.
Because that's where we are, where if you got Asante Samuel and he was healthy, I think you could argue that I don't think it's an argument. I think Asante Samuel is a better football player when healthy than Cater Cohu. I think he is. He's a guy that's had interceptions, plural, in a playoff game, right? I think it's a risk worth taking, and I do think that his dad's changed his stance, and
that's interesting, eh?
It's very interesting, the timing of that.
Yeah. I find that very interesting too, man.
Right.
It's.
I like Asante Samuel.
So do I. I'd take him. I think if he would have had a lockdown solid one, he's the perfect 2 to pair with that one. But I mean, hey, we're at the point right now with that cornerback room where, what do I always say? Beggars can't be choosers, bro. I mean, that's just where we are at right now. And you make a lot of sense. Rasul Douglas and Asante Samuel, throw them in the mix, man. What do we got to lose? We need guys to emerge here. You know what I mean? And it's clear they're not as high as the Fangio regime was on Bonner. So, I mean, we got to figure something out here. You know what I mean?
You got to do something. I don't necessarily have the answer. There's something you got to do, though.
What's up with Jalen Connors? Jalen Connors is hurt. That's what's up with him right now.
He's got practice squad written all over him.
Give me one player. We're a week and a half in. Who's been your biggest revelation so far in this training camp for the Miami Dolphins?
William Gay.
Yeah, I agree.
William
Yeah.
Gay. I mean, like what
Big play. We call him over here. Big play Willie Gay is what we call him over here, bro.
Look, and like I want, like I mean this. I think Jordan Brooks is on that like
He's
most
been good.
underrated team because
Yeah.
he was a great signing, and I'd like to get in front of it and start talking extension with him. If I'm being honest,
I agree.
like
and
but
Brewer.
if William Gay was so athletic coming out of Mississippi State, like, and he played really good for the Chiefs, but like the way he's flying around right now, like if he plays at this level during the regular season, it's a complete game changer. You know what it reminds me a little bit? Is how the Jets found lightning in a bottle with Jamie and Sherwood last year, where, Sherwood just got a $15 million contract for the Jets. He was a safety at Auburn. They moved him to a linebacker, and he's out there playing like his hair's on fire. Like, I think William Gay is going to have a big season. Unfortunately, I think he's a one and done here because he's going to get paid if he has a big season. But, man, I'm not going to take that for granted while we have him. Our linebacker core, since Zach Thomas, we just haven't been able to figure it out right. Like, it feels like Jordan Brooks was the first step into feeling good about it. And, man, William Gay looks uber athletic. And I like that, he's really good at that inside blitz. And I think he's going to make some big plays over the course of this football season. So I got to give him my guy that's like really caught me by surprise, because I had him on like the roster as like a fringe backup linebacker depth, but he seems like he's been the best linebacker out there. So good for him.
Yeah, when we did our breakout players, I added him to the honorable mentions along with Jalen Waddle. And I did that because they had already been around the block. We were trying to stick to guys who had been here for like 1 year or 2 year.
Right.
But I mean, yeah, Willie's just been phenomenal, and from all indications, I mean, he's pushing Dotson for that second spot. You know what I mean?
I think it's early, right?
Well, they wanted Dre Greenlaw. Remember, they didn't want to bring back Tyrell Dotson. They wanted to bring in Dre Greenlaw, so it's not like they're totally sold on Tyrell Dotson, right?
Yeah, it's crazy that Greenlaw's out in camp already, right? Everyone thought he was out for the long haul. He's already out of camp. But no, I'll take my William Gay.
I'm hearing that Denver defense looks crazy though, bro.
I think their defense is good, but you know what I'm going to say.
What?
I don't believe in Bo.
Yeah, you don't believe in you don't believe.
I don't believe. I believe in that guy. I believe that guy and his crappy character more than I believe in that Bo.
Oh man. Any final thoughts or anything? It's just around 400 watching right now. Any final thoughts?
We're an hour and 45 minutes from a preseason NFL football game. Doesn't mean shit, but it's our foot in the door to the opening of football season. I don't know about you guys. I missed it. I miss it. I can't wait for college football kickoff. I can't wait for Dolphin preseason game, the 10th. Like, I'm ready. I'm back in all the way. Football season. Like, this is my favorite time of the year. Once Dunkin' Donuts switches over to the pumpkin spice coffee, then I know it's really football season. I'm pumped, man. Like, I can't wait. And I'm proud. I'm proud that these young guys are giving me something to be excited about, because I've said this and I want to be consistent. I think where maybe this team's causing some frustration with maybe the lack of a cornerback or tight end heading into this season, damn, the future is going to be really bright if these young kids keep hitting the levels that we think. Chop Robinson. And then, I'm asking myself, August 28th, when that new jersey drops, which player am I going to go with? I'm feeling it's going to be a little chop.
Yeah, man, I wish they went back to the old Vapor jerseys. I
know.
I hate what they've done to the Fanatics has just ruined jerseys across. Have you seen what they did to the NHL jerseys too? They're
good for Fanatics because they print money. But do you remember back in the day when you could go to East Bay to get your Dolphins gear? The Miami Dolphins Pro Shop was always like, it was the NFL shop before it was loaded to Fanatics. Now everyone had their own inventory back in the day.
Yeah.
Now you can see it's all coming from the same spot with a different shell.
And the quality is like nowhere near what it is.
Yeah, and hockey jerseys, to your point, my favorite jerseys to wear are actually hockey jerseys. I think they're the best.
They are.
And man, they messed with those too. And
even Adidas did a better job than what they're doing. Reeboks were the best though, bro.
But yeah, man, fins up, man. Let's go. Hey, look, I said this, I don't want a hollow playoff appearance, but I'd rather have a hollow playoff appearance than nothing. So whatever we get, man, let's go.
We want a watermelon, not a grape. Shout out to Peter Ganem for becoming a member. Brian says, just started watching from the beginning when you spoke about Jersey Mike's. I live 10 minutes away from the original one in Point Pleasant, New Jersey. Been a Patreon for years. Happy early anniversary. And then Penn comes through. She says, happy anniversary, Reason. Enjoy your break. Have a Fanta on me. And thanks to you and Neal for starting later. Buddy, I'm having that Goombay punch when I go to the Bahamas. That's what you got to drink down there, straight from the Coca-Cola factory, baby. But I'll be live tomorrow, so I know you're in Australia, Penn, but you're going to have to get up early tomorrow because we'll be live to cover training camp tomorrow. So, guys, smash the like button. Subscribe if you are new. I will be back tomorrow to cover Friday's training camp practice. Let's hope it's a good one. Until then, you already know what time it is. Fins up all day, every day, and we'll see y'all on the next one.